I was in college when Facebook first became a thing on the internet over a decade ago. At that time, it was just this site where college kids could make a profile, flirt with one another, laugh about the professors, or post pictures of the latest keg party. Today, it has over 1 billion users. Almost everyone I know is on it. I use it to stay in contact with my old employers. I share photos with my family. I share photos of my son with his grandparents. Almost everyone is involved in some form. If it's not Facebook, it's Twitter, or Tumblr, or LinkedIn, or Pinterest, or some other social network. If you're not into social networking, there's blogs, there's forums. Almost every website online has some form of social component to it. It's how they drive traffic. Every one of them has pitfalls that we can fall into and ways that we can mess up. The next few minutes, I'm going to argue that to stay out of trouble online, we should each develop a personal code of online conduct. I'm going to explain what I mean by that, and then I'm going to give you some examples from my own, so you can draw on in forming your own code. Any new social movement is going to come with its share of problems. Cyberbullying, scam artists, loss of privacy, or career-ending social blunders. They're all traps standing by for us to fall into them. Big organizations like the Department of Defense and the government in general are struggling to keep up with this. Whether we like it or not, our members are going to be involved in this. And we've got to look out for them. And we've got to look out for our sensitive information. The solution is not necessarily more rules from the top down. You're going to have that, and you have to have that. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is something personal. A personal code based on self-discipline, individual circumstances. What works for a college kid is not necessarily going to work for a retiree. What works for a journalist isn't necessarily going to work for a State Department official. Each one of these characters has individual risks, individual motivations, and rules that they have to play by that aren't necessarily going to work for everyone. It's also not enough that we just promise ourselves to use good judgment, because we're not always in the same frame of mind. We come home from work after a hard day, and the boss has just really torqued us off. If we have a personal code, we will feel a little bit less tempted to get on Facebook and spew all our feelings about how we feel about that guy. Or maybe one night when we're 3 scotches deep, we decide that now is the time to reestablish contact with the high school sweetheart. We'll think twice about that, because we have a code. So, for example, like I just mentioned in my own personal code, I have a no exes rule. Might sound kind of harsh, but as soon as I got married, shortly thereafter, quietly disconnected or severed any connections I had with anyone I had a relationship in. It's not necessarily necessary, and it wasn't driven by my wife, but I think there's no good that can come of it, and it just eliminates that possibility for screwing up. Another rule I have, which I've already mentioned, you should never post anything online that you wouldn't be willing to say to the face of everyone, everywhere. Because whenever you post something in open forum, that is precisely what you're doing. You're saying something to everyone, everywhere, that's a permanent record forever. If you think, whenever you're posting something, that I really hope this one individual sees what I'm writing right now, then you probably just need to write that person an email. Likewise, if you post something online betting that I really hope this one person doesn't see this, well, you're asking for trouble. It might work once, might work twice, but it will bite you. And it stays there forever. You can't take it back once it's out there. Another rule I obey that I think is particularly relevant to the Department of Defense and government organization, but it's also relevant to anyone who works for an organization that might have sensitive information, is I don't ever post anything classified, or, and this is important, anything that a reasonable person might think is classified. Because that is an argument I do not want to have. Even if I know I'm right, and that I will win in the long run, and I can prove in the books that I can actually get away with saying this online, I've already marked myself as a troublemaker. I might get put on some list as a potential risk. There's no good that can come of it. It's just not a problem I want to have. I don't want to be on the defense. I won't do it. Another thing that I think is wise for most people to observe is to keep the politics off of Facebook or other social media. And like any good American, I have lots of political opinions, and I'm happy to share them. The reason I don't do it on Facebook is because you cannot properly articulate a political position in 250 characters or less. All that you're going to get out is a dumbed down soundbite that sounds like you're quoting some talking head from the news media. It's going to sound dumb. I don't want to sound dumb, so I don't post this stuff on Facebook. Another thing it does is invites argument, which brings me to my next rule. I do not argue online. The other day I was looking at movie reviews, and some joker had posted online that he thought Pierce Brosnan was the best James Bond. And I about lost my mind. And I was fully prepared to write a treatise about why this person should personally apologize to Sean Connery. My wife reminded me, Will, there's always going to be someone wrong on the internet. That's just not your job. You have to be unflappable whenever you're dealing with opinionated people on the internet. There's no good that can come from arguing with these people. So what do? We bury our heads in the sand and say, no thanks, I don't want to be a part of social networking. I'll just have my grandkids' pictures on film, thank you. Here's the wishful thinking, people. Good luck with that. Let me know how it works out for you. Look, the genie's out of the bottle, whether it's Facebook or blogs or Twitter or any other social media. This is how people communicate in the 21st century. It's time to get with the program. And as long as we develop our own personal code of conduct, our own personal code of behavior, we'll stay out of trouble. Adam Toastman.